Hey, thanks for joining me. Did Riptide from Youngblood really need her own comic? Um, that's really weird. But here it is. I saw this online for really cheap, and I picked it up. I didn't realize it was issue two. Kind of doesn't matter. I would have got it anyway, just because there are all these books. That's one of these things I keep discovering as I do this channel. That holy shit, did Extreme Studios put out a shit ton of books. Um, I can't say that any of them were really, really of super high quality. It's all subjective, when you compare them to the art and all that type of stuff from Wildstorm or Top Cow or any of the other studios. They're kind of just okay. Anyway, Riptide. Before we get into it, hey, if you're interested, I make my own comics. I did a He-Man Masters of the Universe fan comic. I've got 6 volumes. That right there is 1 through 3. And right here, volumes 4, 5, and 6. They're big graphic novels. Story that I've put together and kind of had in my head for years. I just put this whole thing together to tell this big story that I've always wanted to do. It's based on the 80's Masters of the Universe cartoon, and but taken kind of a more adult kind of direction. A lot more violent, a lot more kind of grown up. The stuff that young kid me would want to see as an adult now, I made that story, and I've got them available for anybody who's interested. So just hit me up, and we can see about getting copies of these in your hands. Let me get that out of the way. I also have a sketchbook, female figures inside this thing, just drawings that I've done over the years of just various reference found online, some stuff just pulled from my head, just various assorted different things in a sketchbook. That's available. Let me know if you're interested, and we'll get you a copy of that. But enough of my own nonsense. Business is out of the way. Riptide. What is the defining characteristics of Riptide? Well, she's the girl on one of the teams on Youngblood, and she can, as Liefeld described it when the book was first coming out, she can take any moisture in the air and quote unquote accelerate it, whatever that means. Which basically means it feels like, like if there's any moisture in the air, she can just like amplify it and duplicate it and control it. She's like the Magneto of water, right? The other defining characteristics about her that I'm aware of is that at some point she had a story arc where she was approached and did pose nude for a men's magazine. And then the other thing she's famously known for, as far as I know, is that she was killed by her teammate Sentinel in a story written by Alan Moore. The end. That's what she's popular for. She controls water, she got naked, and she got killed. Hell yeah. This cover by Liefeld, it might be one of the worst things he's ever drawn. I mean, this soulless eye thing, the screamy mouth, putting her tits front and center, and then just kind of having her hands up front. It's like one of the worst drawn things ever, but God, it makes you look. I cannot deny that it makes you stop and go, huh, look at that. And yeah, for me, in my interests, it's like, look at that. Look how bad it is. But it's eye-catching. The coloring is fantastic. I gotta say, I like the coloring on it. It really works. But my God, is that just... but it gets your attention. This, to me, jumps out on the shelf. So, I guess Liefeld wins, right? So again, it is issue 1. Eric Stevenson, the writer, and it has pencilers Andy Park and Mark Parillo. I hope I'm saying his name right. Pajarillo. Or am I missing a syllable? Pajarillo? Sorry. I'm a white boy. I don't know nothing. Inkers, Bruce Patterson, no idea. Sean Parsons, no idea. Danny Meeke, definitely no. Colors are Christian Lichtner. That guy can color. And the coloring shows in this book all the way through. So again, this is issue 2. So I don't know what happened in issue 1. They give you enough information in it to kind of be able to pick up the story, which is important. You know, every issue kind of has to be somebody's potential first issue, so you have to explain enough of what's going on. I do feel like Eric Stevenson is doing the thing that bugs me the most when it comes to writing, is it feels like he's having to justify his existence as a writer by cluttering up the words with text boxes. He's trying to be Todd McFarlane. It's like, I need to have words everywhere. If I'm writing it, there's got to be words on it. No, that's not how writing works. But it felt like it was overly wordy and way unnecessary. And I'm also contrasting this against like my favorite, one of my favorite comics of all time, Planetary, where there's no text boxes anywhere. All this shit, none of that is there. When you flip this open to the next spread, there's text everywhere. Now, you could obviously make the argument that it's there to tell you what's going on. But when you think about it, it's just overwrought, overwritten stuff explaining things that you don't really need to read. You could just get it from the story and the dialogue and the expressions on the characters' faces. There's an argument to be made that none of the text on this double page spread or even page 1 needs to be there at all. It's just like her, you know, she's like, I'm completely alone in the vastness of an ocean that grows deeper with every second. Time is lost to me. I am lost. The world turns inside out and suddenly I'm somewhere else. Like, none of that tells you anything. You could just show her lost. So she's underwater, finds her way into a cave, gets up, gets rid of her scuba gear, and she sees something shocking. What do we see? And this is not a bad spread. Again, the coloring is what's carrying this issue for me. It says here, penciled by Andy Park, but in the front, it had the 2 pencilers listed, so I don't know. And then in the front page here, it says Eric Stevenson, writer. In the back here, or in the back, a couple pages in, it says written by Eric Stevenson and Brent Braun, whoever that is. So who did what? I don't know. So there's this underwater, giant, vast cave. There's a couple of scuba divers that were with her, apparently. And then there are these giant stone formations, and I was looking at these figures, and I was trying to decipher if they were like something carved into the wall, or they were like, my first thought is that they were actually probably like actual human beings, that evil lady here probably like turned them to stone and molded them, melded them with the rock face. Who's to say? It doesn't tell us anywhere. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it explains it in future issues. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant, at least at this point. I do kind of like what the artist was trying to do with this double page spread. I feel like he kind of missed the opportunity. Like, you've got this bad guy, this hot girl kind of sitting. I was like, what is this, a giant banana? I was like, oh no, that's like a whale. And then here's a dolphin. So she's sitting in a throne made of fishes. I know. Whales aren't fishes, just whatever. But I feel like there could have been a more interesting shot to see her more. Now, we get the shot of her on the next page, so it kind of solves itself, but it just seemed kind of like an unnecessary, like, just to have her little head and hands and knees popping out. Then, you know, the artist is trying to give a sense of vastness to these caves. There's a waterfall, like we're underwater, under the ocean, in a cave, and it's so vast there's even a waterfall here. Sure, some evil girl that says, come closer, child, you will find that I am not someone who should be kept waiting. And whoever this girl is, no idea. I've never seen this thing before. I do like the coloring. I kind of like the outfit. She's kind of a hot girl, kind of geared up in all kinds of elaborate jewelry and stuff. So, she a good guy? She a bad guy? She's obviously some kind of royalty, it seems, of some type. But this girl, whoever she is, tells Riptide, you should be dead. It is by my intervention alone that you are not. And Riptide's like, that's awesome, but I don't understand what happened. Where's my friends? And she's like, what of your friends? Do you desire? The woman says, it is you I desire. Their lives mean nothing to me. If you wish to live, you must decide whose life is more valuable. And so Riptide says, no, I can't make that kind of decision. And so Evil Girl says, but you must, my child, and you must make it now. And then, boom, she wakes up. She looks like she's in an apartment or something. But according to the text, she's in jail. So I don't know who Hot Underwater Girl is. I don't know why she's being threatened. Like, I'm going to take and keep you. If you want to have your other people freed, I'm going to have to take you. But then now it just jumps to now she's in jail. And so she wakes up, Riptide, and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't really need this right now. As if being arrested for the involvement of the deaths of my diving partners isn't enough. I have to relive the whole dreadful ordeal every time I close my eyes. It's almost like there's something I should be learning from these nightmares, but I don't see how a dream can affect what's happening. What's happening in my life is equally miserable. Why is this? So she's very sad. But she's like in jail because it says, yeah, because I didn't get that this was a jail until there's a knock at the door and the door opens up and she says, time for my one phone call or you're going to come beat me with a rubber hose. And this character coming in the door says, very funny, Ms. Creel, but the answer is neither. So I'm like, so she's in jail? Like, in jail, you get a soft bed, blankets, pillows, sure. Magazines, a boombox, CDs, VHS, a table, shoes, hairbrush, makeup, maybe a TV and a VCR. You get pictures of your cats and dogs and like what the fuck kind of jail is this? Again, maybe this has been explained. Does it matter? I guess not. But you can't help but just look at it and go, what? This is jail? Because Battlestone showed up. And all the versions of Battlestone that I've seen, he was a big hulking kind of monster of a man. And he's kind of drawn to be kind of like a wimpy little douche here. Like, he's not a fraction as intimidating and powerful looking as he's been illustrated before. Yes, by Mr. Liefeld. Like, he was always this big, massive man. And I was like, this is Battlestone? I was like, really? I guess. So Riptide doesn't want to have anything to do with him. He's like, come on, I just posted your bail, bitch. Let's get out of here. She's like, why would I want to deal with you? Battlestone's like, I don't want to deal with you, but Graves is the one who wants you, and I'm here on his behalf. So she's like, well, fuck you and fuck Graves. That guy kicked me out of Youngblood weeks ago. I'm not playing his game. I'm not going to be a pawn on his twisted little chessboard. So if you need to be his little errand boy, you can fuck right off. Why are you here carrying out his orders anyway? And Battlestone says, how about, I'll tell you what, I'll explain myself while we're on the way to the Pentagon. So she's like, all right, at least I get to get out of jail. So now they're in a limo, and she's like, okay, well, start singing a sweet tune there, Battlestone, you fuck nuts. Tell me what's going on. And Battlestone's just ignoring her. This is the inside of the biggest limousine I've ever seen. That's like the size of a bus. But she's like, he's not talking to me. He's just staring off into anywhere. And then she notices that the car's going the wrong direction. She's like, okay, this is weird. This is strange. So she's like, holy shit, I think something's fishy's going on here. So she unlocks the door and I guess jumps out. And I guess these are her powers. She can shoot water from her feet. No, obviously that's not what's going on. But I didn't know that this character could do that with her powers. Like, I'm just trying to imagine what I've seen her do with her stupid water powers. And honestly, it's not much, but I don't know, but I mean, she could take and control water. So I guess she can just make water just fire up like a fire hydrant and she can ride on it like Iceman. Like, you know how visually cool, but completely unbelievable it is for Iceman to be like sliding around on those ice sleds, leaving that shit just like, how does that stuff brace itself to hold itself up? Does anybody ever think about that? Those ice sleds? Like, he just like projects a slide in front of him, but he's like 50 feet in the air. Anyway, doesn't make any sense, but I guess she can do it with water, just riding like a surfing wave of water. And apparently Battlestone, I didn't know he's got rocket boots. So he just takes off in the sky to go get her. And she just yells no. And he flies up there and just punches her right in the fucking face. Pow! Just socks it to her right in the face. Knocks her ass to the ground. But then she gets back control of her water. Gets back to water surfing and says... And she starts giving Battlestone, like, lectures on the rules of war. She's like, never underestimate your opponent. So she gushes him with a burst of water himself. Knocks his ass to the ground. He falls to the ground. He says his boots are clogged. And he's like, damn it, you're getting away this time. But maybe I underestimated you, Mrs. Creel. And so she's like surfing away on the water. And she's like, well, wonder of wonders, something finally went right. Something finally went right. So she's like, I'm going to have to go now. How do I solve this problem that she's in where she's accused of murdering people? Back with whoever, wherever. It's not much of an establishing shot. Like, if you're going to change scenes, you got to have a panel that's big enough to show us where we're at. This is like, what are we even looking at? I guess you could kind of decipher that's kind of a part of a building, sort of. And then, don't know who these guys are, except they tell us. This is Masada. She's the Israeli chick that could grow into a giant, super giant sized version of herself. And then some guy. I don't even know if they mention his name here, which is something that they should have done. They should have said, this is who this guy is. But basically, he was sent to accuse Riptide of doing all this shit, but I guess he's discovered that she's actually innocent, and so he's actually going to prove her innocence. And she's like, Masada's like, if you're going to prove Riptide's innocent, aren't you going to prove your own guilt? And he's like, yeah, I'll be lucky to have a job after this, which is why I'm going to try and go get my friends on the line to help me out of this situation. And if you want to do me a solid, you'll be there to back me up when I'm done, because I'm going to get your friend out of trouble. Back with Graves at the Pentagon, he's screaming at people because the lawyer guy from the previous page is going to get Riptide out of trouble. He doesn't like that. He's mad. He's screaming. He's pissed. And then Riptide just shows up. She's just there. She's like, hey, I'm going to get out of this. You're not going to control me. This is some bullshit. And she's just like, hey, I'm not taking your shit anymore. God, this story is just not that interesting. It's just so kind of cliche by the numbers. I get the point. You're trying to have a character put in the worst position possible. She has to get her way out. She has to find help. She has to run from the law. She has to run from her friends. She has to run from her enemies. But it's not really that exciting. But anyway, he's going to let her go. And she's like, fine, you just stay the hell out of my life. So Riptide walks out the front of the building, which you can't tell because there's no backgrounds anywhere. And then Battlestone shows up. I guess his waterlogged boots are working. So Riptide's ready to fight. She's like, come on, let's you want round two, motherfucker? Let's go. He's like, no, I'm not here to fight you. And she's like, oh, okay, well then fine, whatever. And then she gets on her water and surfs away. And Battlestone's thinking to himself, like, You're awesome, and she's impressive, and I could find use for her in ways she could never imagine. Sounds kind of creeper. So then she surfs her ass back to her house, and there's cops out there, so she figures she's going to have to turn herself in or explain herself, but she shows up and trying to say, like, I'm innocent, I can prove it, none of this, I didn't do any of this stuff. And the cops are like, yeah, haven't you heard? All the charges against you have been dropped. That lawyer guy from the previous page, he's taken the fall for you. There's Masada. She showed up and she explains, like, oh, there's a computer, he stumbled upon stuff, this is crazy, this sucks. And so she has to sit there and be like, oh no, this poor innocent man is taking the fall for me. How do I solve this? How do I help him? What's the next step? Then back to another page where some guy, I don't even know who the fuck this guy is. Is this Kiever? I don't know. It doesn't say. I don't care either because this thing fucking sucks. But whoever the fuck this is going through a computer. He's like, holy shit, all this cool information about her. You know, things are about to get way worse for her. And sometimes the war is lost before the first battle is ever fought. All right, well, let's keep going. What's going on in the story? There's an ad for Evangeline. Cool. There's an ad for Meximage. Cool. There's an ad for Prophet. That drawing is fucking awesome. I think we can all agree on that. The Stephen Platt drawing, the pose, the drama, the angle, the rendering, the coloring. It's awesome. So, ad for Prophet. Ad for Celebrate the Women of Extreme. Take it to the extreme, beginning in January. More Prophet stuff, more the Shepherd and Extreme. What the fuck? That was the last page of the comic? That page there, back before here? It doesn't even say the end. Isn't that like a very common basic thing to have a comic say just the end? Like, so you know you're done? It just is like, okay, and then you're like, oh, ad. Youngblood minifigures. Okay. It's pretty by the numbers. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen by any means, but um, it's just by the numbers. It's the artist. I mean, they all grow. Andy Park definitely becomes a much better artist. There's no doubt about that. Um, but all these guys have to start somewhere. This is 95, but it's just not that great. And there were other more interesting artists from Image Comics all over the place that did a better job. So, as I like to try and say, like, no disrespect meant to the artists involved, but at the time, like, the coloring is what's working here for me. Nothing artistically inside this really blew me away. There were some parts where it was like, it's kind of okay, but it's just kind of okay. It's just kind of okay. That's it. The coloring looks great, of course, when you got this guy involved, but it's just they'll just pump out anything. They were literally trying to keep this massive kind of share of the pie in terms of publishing power at Image Comics. Just pump out how many books. It seems like there was a time when anybody could have come to Liefeld that worked with him and said, "Hey, I want to do a comic based on this," and they're like, "Sure, go." Off you go. Or Liefeld just has a million ideas, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do a book on Riptide? Sure. Hey, you want to do this? You want to do this? You want to do this?" Just handing out comics to everybody. And none of them were really that great. Unless you loved them, then great. They were good for you. For me, they all kind of suck. Anyway, Riptide #2. This goddamn cover, I'm telling you. It's eye-catching. But it's also terrible. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.